Well, hey, everybody. I'm Pastor Phil, and you're watching the LifePoint podcast, a new edition. And with me is Aleah Grabowski, who is our worship leader. We're going to talk today about a brand new song that you wrote for the congregation and for a very special series we're doing. What's the name of the song?
The song is called Forgiveness.
Okay, it's a good title.
Yeah.
Good title. There's a little history of the song, and I want to get into sort of, talking about the process and how you wrote it and all that. But the backstory is this series on forgiveness is a 3-week series. At the beginning of the series, I gave you a little challenge to write a song. Tell me about that and what was your sort of reaction to it.
Okay, this is what happened. So, casual Tuesday, I walk in, and on my desk is a piece of paper that didn't even read what the paper said, to be honest. I just saw your handwriting at the bottom and said, complete this assignment, this task, and you get a special reward at the end, or surprise reward at the end. So I go to read the paper, and I'm like, okay, it was instructions to write a song to wrap up the sermon series that you have been doing on Sunday mornings. And yeah,
so
that's pretty much it.
So, for those of you that are listening, or if you're watching, like I gave her the sort of the outline or the main themes of the sermon series, which is about, the idea that you really can't forgive yourself. That's not a Bible thing.
Right.
Forgiveness comes from God. Forgiveness unleashes you, right? More than maybe it does for the other person, things like that. And then the special prize is I thought, like, okay, obviously it's your job to lead us in worship, but writing songs for the congregation is something that I usually don't say, hey, I need this song by a certain date. So I thought I'm going to give you a little incentive just for the fun of it, which was to get the song done by the 19th of November so that you could perform it at the end of the series. Right. And so before we get into like how you did the song, it's weird because today's Friday, the 17th, but this podcast is coming out the week of like the 21st. So the song's already been performed. So we're going to go into the future.
Let's do it.
And watch a clip of the song from Sunday.
Okay.
Did someone hurt you? Have you been betrayed? Do you find yourself angry at the things you can't change? Do you hold a resentment towards the people you love? Do you feel it get heavier the longer you wait to forgive someone? And we have been forgiven, so we can do the same. The Son of Man crucified, go and give what you've received.
Tell me about the process of you writing that song, because you did it really quickly.
Yeah.
Normally it seems like it takes you a few weeks to write a song, but you wrote the song in like 1 or 2 days.
Yeah, really, yeah. So how this started was I sat down and as I began to write the song, I had an intro of the song. I started just playing the piano, and I knew I just wanted to keep it vocals and piano. So I knew like context, instrumentally, what I wanted, the vibe of it, if it was just going to be very like a chill song. So I just started playing the piano and just kind of like, I always, a lot of the songs that I sing are in the key of D. So I started there, and it's just a good range for my voice. And so I just started writing an intro. It came up with a little melody. And sometimes I write music before the lyrics.
Okay.
But this time, after I wrote my intro, the lyrics came to my head very, very quickly, and the melody just followed it right after. And that helped the process move really quickly. The the logic behind the song while I was writing it was I wanted to find a good balance between a worship song and more of like a special song, something that you don't really like stand like a congregational song wise, but something that is more heartfelt that you can just sit and listen to. And finding that balance can be tricky, but I think this song naturally worked out so well.
I would say this. I think it's especially the first section, the lyrics. I think they're the best lyrics you've written.
Thank you.
And it's not the song that you sing out loud as a congregation, but it is the song that you sing to yourself. Right? It's a worship song in that way.
Yeah.
The first lines. Let's take us through the first lines because I'm guessing that the song came to you quickly because at some level, some of it's pretty real for you.
Yeah, for sure.
How does it start? What's the first line of the song?
The first verse is, did someone hurt you? Have you been betrayed? Do you find yourself angry at the things you can't change?
Right. And that's real because there's so many people, especially since I've been going through this.
I just got goosebumps.
I've been going, as we go through the series, I've gotten a lot of feedback from people. And that's a real thing.
We've been seeing a lot of growth in this series. Like I know you've mentioned is like like you said, we're seeing hearts change, attitudes change, relationships change for the better.
Yeah.
And it's the work that a lot of people are a lot of times hesitant to do. Well, that's what I love about what we're seeing in this series. This is hard work to do, is to forgive somebody and let go of that bitterness. It's very tough,
I think for sure. And I think there's the idea behind your song is essentially this. And it's not a new idea, but I think it's hard for people to really grasp it, is we have to forgive. We're called to forgive.
Yep.
Because Jesus has forgiven us.
Yeah.
And, no matter what we've done or what we said or what we thought, we've been forgiven for that. So we have to then turn and forgive the other person. But I think the real amazing thing about forgiveness is it's not just for the other person. It's for you too.
The song, I love it so much because it captures this idea that it's not about that other person or you forgetting. Like you said,
it's not just about the other person.
Yeah, it's the song encompasses like it affects you more than it does this other person when you're unwilling to forgive somebody.
Right.
And in the second verse, it talks about how like the resentment, once you hold on to that, it gets heavier and heavier. The longer you wait to forgive somebody, you get more bitter and bitter. And when I was writing the song, I wrote verse 1 and verse 2. And I like writing songs kind of like under pressure because as I was writing it, I had writer's block like crazy going into the chorus. I didn't know what chorus to write. And I got up for a second and I was like, you know what, just you got to do it. You have to sit here and you have to finish the song. Like no one's going to finish it for you. Right. So I continue to sit there and mess around with the piano and
there's an interesting kind of meta characteristic going on here too, because in the sermon from Sunday, what I talked about was this idea of cognitive obedience, which is, yes, it's hard to do. You may not feel like doing it when talking about forgiveness, but you're commanded to do it and you're encouraged to do it. So the thing to do is just forgive first and you'll feel better about it later. Like a lot of times it's like, okay, as soon as I can get all my feelings sorted, then I'll forgive. But I think from the scriptures you see, if you forgive first, then those feelings will get sorted. And it's kind of like you with the songs, like, I just have to do it. Yeah. I can't wait till the moment's right. I just have to do it. Yeah. And then I think, you sort of push through and then the rest of it, I think, came pretty naturally. Take us through the chorus. What's the chorus say then?
The chorus is, it says, we have been forgiven, so we can do the same. The Son of Man crucified, go and give what you've received.
Yeah. The idea is you've got a gift, but it's not a gift for you to hold on to. You have to turn it.
I really like how you've been explaining how forgiveness is a long process. Yeah. It's not something that just happens. Like, you do it, but once you take that step, you step over that line and say, I forgive you. Now you've got, sometimes it takes years for that process of healing to then get restored and maybe relationships to be restored. Yeah. And I think a lot of the times we see it as like, okay, I forgive you. Now the slate's clean, and now we can continue to move on however we need to. When in reality, you know, I've had moments in my life where I've had to forgive people, but those people do not remain in my life anymore. You know, because that doesn't mean I have to keep certain people in your life. It doesn't mean that, okay, I forgive you, and now we can just continue on like nothing ever happened.
Right.
You know, it's more of like forgiving somebody is a heart posture that really affects you.
A good example would be, you know, if you think about it, okay, when I was a kid, I had a BMX bike, and, you know, I thought I was going to be a BMX bike rider. And so my friends and we had made a jump in the street. And so we were jumping our bikes, and I went over the handlebars and wiped out bad. I hit my chin on the pavement. Okay.
That's why you have the beard.
That's why
you won't shave your beard.
Yeah. And I hit my chin on the pavement, and I had to get like 3 stitches. Okay. Mm-hmm. So when I got hurt, it was fixed, right? It healed, but there was a scar.
Right.
When you get hurt, there's always going to be a scar there, but it will heal. Yeah. And that's sort of forgiveness. Yeah. But then there's boundaries. And my parents said, okay, here's a good boundary. Let's not do that anymore, right? Okay. So in your relationships with people, not your relationships, but, you know, in the relationships we have with people, you may get hurt. It's going to heal, but there could be a scar, which is the sort of residual effects of what somebody's done to you or said to you.
Right.
But the boundaries go, okay, maybe it's safer not to go back into that relationship at the same level.
Yeah.
Or to draw some emotional boundaries with certain individuals, whether that's family or not, so that you don't get hurt again, so to speak, so you don't go back over the handlebars again. Right. You know, you have to do that, and that doesn't mean you haven't forgiven them, because forgiveness isn't always full restoration.
Right.
And I think that's okay, and I think we have to learn that. It doesn't mean you're going to resent them anymore, although you may work through that slowly, I guess. Now, I feel like for you, though, the song came quickly because there's some personal things. We're all dealing with some kind of things. What would you say to the individual who might be listening or watching, or maybe they were there on Sunday or they've heard the song, but they're really still struggling with it?
I'm right there with you. Just because I wrote a song about it, it was very difficult because it's an act that I still have yet to do. And I think even sitting here conversating with you now about it is this idea that I keep thinking I have to wait to be in a place in my life emotionally, especially emotionally, to forgive somebody. Right. When in reality, just you do it and then let the healing follow. God has it in control. In the song I mentioned, know that you have a Father who loves you and has it all under control. Yeah. And noticing, like, it's not us. Like, God commands us to do that one thing. Right. But what is even more beautiful about that is he says, do that thing and I'm going to take care of the rest. So I'm learning that the resentment that I hold towards certain people in my life and the trauma that I've experienced growing up, that's not going to change. The past is the past. Right. And that's also mentioned in the song, but are we carrying burdens of a past that's gone? Right. And if we're still carrying these burdens, you know, we're not meant to carry them. Right. And so I'm learning that the longer that I let it fester and sit inside, the more bitter I'm becoming. Right. But writing the song was challenging, but this song, I didn't even know it, was my entryway to redemption, my entryway to forgiveness, to have that understanding of, okay,
so you didn't write it just to help the congregation, it's been helping you too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So do you think there's going to be more of this opportunity to write some specific songs that are like tied to the messages that we're doing? I think that would be great.
This is the first time I've ever done this. And I don't know if like other worship leaders are going to listen to this, but worship leaders have to be writing music in your church. Yeah. Like, it has to be done. And I know God sometimes gives the songwritings to different people, and maybe there's worship leaders who say, I'm not really a songwriter.
Yeah.
Well, you've got 4 chords.
Yeah.
And
4
melodies
chords
and
well, I think what's nice is if you think of it this way, the preacher is writing new sermons every week.
Yeah, which we kind of giggle about this every once in a while, because I'm like, you've mentioned, why don't you write a song? Write 4 songs every week for the service.
That would be a lot. Well, I mean, if
And-
you think of it, you're writing a sermon,
Yeah.
and it's based on what the people need, what God lays on my heart about what our congregation needs to hear, because our
Right.
congregation is different.
Right.
But while you couldn't write 4 songs every single week, or even 1 song every week would probably be
Yeah.
a lot to ask. 1 song per series.
Yeah.
If you're talking about forgiveness, we're going to go into like a series in the spring about in the book of James. So that's going to be about faith and action.
Right.
So obviously there could be a song there. So I think it's kind of a good thing. It's a unique thing too.
Right.
And even though we haven't heard the song yet because it's not Sunday yet, I think it's going to be a powerful moment. I think it's going to be a powerful moment. Yeah.
I think that when I was writing the song, going back to the process of writing it, when I had writer's block, every time I get writer's block, I just pray.
Oh, good.
I acknowledge that there's only so much I can do in writer's block. I can keep plugging along, keep trying, but I remember sitting in my office and I prayed and I was like, God, like, I got to get the song finished. Will you just give me melody, give me something so I can just finish a course, get somewhere. And it was like immediate that it was like I had a section of the song done. I had prayed, and not even 20 minutes after, the whole song was finished.
Yeah.
So God is faithful.
Right.
And when you're obedient to do what
Yeah.
he's calling you to do in unity with this whole church,
Yeah.
he's going to make a way for it to happen,
Yeah.
and he will get the glory for it. So
It's probably a good example too, and maybe a good way to end the podcast, which is obviously, songwriting and forgiving, they have some similarities, but obviously they're difficult for different reasons, obviously.
Yeah.
But forgiveness, or the power to forgive, even the power to obey God's command to forgive, doesn't even come from us. It comes from God. And so maybe to that person who's really like, they're the person in the song, they're struggling with resentment, something's happened to them, they've been carrying this thing for a long time. Prayer.
And you're not, I would say, like you said, someone who is struggling, they hear the song and they're still like, I can't do it. I can't forgive that person. That comes from hurt.
Yeah.
You're hurt, which is understandable. I'm hurt. I'm sure you've been hurt. And especially when you're hurt by the people that you love the most, the people that you would think they would never do that. That causes bitterness.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that is very challenging.
Getting a phone call in the middle of the podcast. That may be a good sign. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave off the podcast like this. I'll put our text number here. So 407-988-0991. Now, maybe you're watching and you're struggling with forgiveness. You're struggling with resentment. Something's going on and you've been carrying this. One of the things we said in the series was, you got to confess your sins to God, but also the Bible says confess them to others. And really what that means is allow somebody else to know what you're going through. 2 reasons. One, you're going to find out other people have dealt with that too, right? You're not alone. You're not, a lot of people have dealt with things, been hurt, whatever. Number 2, though, is, there's a certain power you have over something when you speak it out loud. Now it's not in the dark anymore.
Yes, words have power.
Yeah, it's not like, a secret. You're going to have some,
Yes.
agency over that. And you share that with somebody else. You share that with God. And so if you need somebody to kind of help you with that and bear that burden, then, you can give us a call and text us. Well, thank you for hanging out for a little bit. Thanks for that song. I think it's a great song.
Thank you.
I think it's one of your best songs, and I think it's going to do a lot of good.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.